We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Did Terence Bud Crawford just cross the line regarding Errol Spence? He brings up the tragic near accident that Errol Spence went through late last year. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. We unpacked. I come to you live. We unpack. Let's jump right into it. There's a great interview and article, and I will put the link in the description. Dan Rafael spoke with Crawford. Let's jump right into it. Again, link in the description. Make sure you guys click on that. Crawford on Spence purse demands. Maybe the wreck knocked a couple screws loose. So you can already tell it's going to get chippy. And I've highlighted kind of the important parts. And regarding the fight, Crawford or Spence said, I think it could happen. We have to see how it goes. Al Heyman and Crawford's promoter need to sit down. And Bob Arum need to stop lying. We'll see. It definitely could happen next year. Man down. We just have to sit down and go over the numbers, things like that. I'm the big dog in the welterweight division. He has to take a back seat and take that 60-40 split or 70-30, whatever we give him. Now, this was at the Canelo fight. Errol Spence was in attendance, interviewed by the DAZN crew. And he said he got to take 60-40, take a back seat. I'm the A-side man down, big fish, and more or less the same. He also did say 60-40 or 70-30. For some reason, I'm seeing fans only highlight the 70-30 aspect, and in some weird twist of events, I've seen fans using that, saying Errol don't want the fight because he said 70-30. Listen, Errol Spence, if anybody, has been consistent on this matter. You know, he basically is saying, I'm going to get the lion's share. 70-30, whether you think that's a legit number or not, Errol Spence has said time and time again, my promoter, his guy, gotta sit down. So, you know, I think Errol Spence, maybe he was trying to little boy him or whatever the situation is, but the bottom line is he says, I'm entitled to the lion's share of money. I got 2 belts, better resume, selling out more. You know, Crawford's last fight was in the bubble, MGM, with only close friends and family, no crowd. Errol Spence fought during this pandemic, you know, and he garnered 16,000 plus. That's more people in Texas than Canelo had. See, we unpack, coming to you live. I put things in ways that you can't refute. Look at the numbers. Eddie Hearn post Canelo Callum Smith fight in Texas. It was in a different part of Texas, San Antonio versus Arlington, where the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry's World. But yet and still in Texas in the pandemic, Errol Spence outsold Canelo based on the recorded announced attendance. That's not my personal opinion. Eddie Hearn, who worked with Canelo Promotions on the Callum Smith fight, he's the one that said this post-fight, if you listen to the post-fight interviews. Meaning, coming off the accident, people were checking for Errol Spence. And I'm not saying that they weren't checking for Canelo, because they said he did 10,000. But Gervonta Tank Davis did 10,000 in Texas with Leo Santa Cruz. So we're starting to see some shifts. You know, Tank Davis doing the same type of pandemic attendance as Canelo. You know, Errol Spence did not double, but almost double Canelo's attendance. So it shows you different levels of fights. And Canelo, you know, he's still popular. It was a great performance. But these are the facts, people. In response, this is what Terence Crawford told Boxing Scene. Quote, it almost sounds like he thinks I'm desperate, Crawford told BoxingScene.com. Is he desperate for the fight? Heck no. I'm in a good place in my life right now. I'm having fun, chilling out, having kids, and enjoying my kids, said Crawford, whose wife just gave birth to their 6th child, Trinity Michelle Crawford, last week. I don't worry about things I can't control. I mean, like, everybody always got an opinion, and I just laugh at a lot of people's opinions that said I haven't fought anybody. For whatever reason, Crawford keeps alluding, like, to be honest, it sounds like Crawford is almost insecure that he wants to prove himself, and people keep suggesting this because he's saying he's chilling and spending time with family, and he just had, you know, a beautiful bundle of joy. That's all fine and dandy, but where did that come from? Out of nowhere, he says, I laugh at a lot of people's opinion, like people said I haven't fought no one. Like, you're in the midst of talking about, you know, your family and the holidays and things like that, and you just randomly say a lot of people say I haven't fought nobody. You know, Errol Spence, you never hear him say this thing, because at the end of the day, what boxing fan is going to suggest that Errol Spence hasn't fought anyone? So it almost sounds like a chip on his shoulder or insecurity coming from Crawford. That's my honest opinion. He said, I just laugh like this guy, he's on a high horse. Maybe that wreck knocked a couple of screws loose, which is obviously a distasteful, insensitive comment. And I'm going to get to that in a second, but let me keep pushing through these quotes. Crawford was referring to the horrific, see, look at the writer says horrific one car accident that Spence miraculously survived. You know, who says that? Who says, I just laugh, he's on his high horse, maybe the wreck knocked a couple screws loose? You perpetually and continually hear Terence Crawford's whole team, from Crawford, Bomac, and Bernie, you know, referencing this accident that almost claimed the man's life. Like, boxing is supposed to be the gentleman's sport, and I really don't want to get sidetracked, but I'll save that for the end of the video. Make sure you smash the like button. I drop daily content. Crawford continues, that's the way he wanted to say it at that point in time, in response to Spence's whatever we give him Crawford comment. Those were his words, and sometimes you can't take your words back. I'm laughing at it. I'm not offended or anything. It's laughable to me, to be honest. It's something you laugh at. This dude is funny. It's laughable. But the thing that's not laughable is people are obviously getting to Terence Crawford and getting at Terence Crawford, saying you got to step up the resume at welterweight, right? We appreciate what you did at 35 and 40. And he's saying he's laughing at the comment. And he said that's on him. That's how he feels. Listen, if the fight happens, it happens. If it don't, then it don't. I don't know what he's going to do or what his plans are, so I can't speak on it. He's got something else on his agenda, obviously. Wow. To me, this is not good. First of all, when Errol Spence made the comment, like I really, from the heart of my heart of all hearts, I really like Bud Crawford, the fighter. And I've always supported his channel, but he's making it hard to follow his logic in doing things, like his chronological order and, you know, the systematic things he's doing in recent memory. So for starters, he just said, I don't know what he's going to do, but he got something on his plans. If the fight happens, it happens. Like, nonchalant. I'm chilling. You know, if it happens, it happens. Whatever. I'm just laughing at dude. That's what he's saying. But the day Errol Spence said it on the Canelo, you know, interview in between the Canelo fights, right, the undercard, he literally said this chapter of my career, or he said basically he did a subliminal, like the Errol Spence chapter is closed. There goes that. Right after he did it, so everyone knew that and speculated that's what he was talking about. And, you know, we could play games and say, oh, he didn't say it was a subliminal, but right after Errol Spence did that interview, Terence Crawford went to social media and he posted what most people believe to be a response to Errol, saying, well, there goes that fighter. It's something to this effect, just like he's done with other Errol Spence. When he's done interviews saying 60-40, he goes to his Twitter. So I could show you better than I could tell you. This is the actual tweet. The times match up. The date matches up. Right after Errol Spence did that interview, this is what Crawford on his verified Twitter posted. And they said it was me. Shrug. I rest my case now. On to the next. That chapter is now closed. You even see my boy Ari from Eagles Army, catch him on Easy Work Wednesday, obviously feeling the same type of way that he's referring to Errol Spence. So he says, so you okay with taking a pay cut to fight Postal, but won't accept B-side cut to fight Errol Spence? Oh, I didn't read his opponent. I just seen his name, but that's actually a good point. Terence Crawford is on record, Akim Barak, saying he took a pay cut versus Postal. So Ari of Ego's Army, he's saying, hey, how you take a pay cut for Postal, but you can't take one for Errol Spence? You know, so obviously most people thought he was referring to the Spence interview where he says, take what we give you. He said, and they said it was me, I rest my case. On to the next. That chapter is now closed. So this passive aggressive hot cold thing is very hard to follow from Terence Crawford. You just said the chapter is closed. Errol Spence said, why was he even at my fight with Danny Garcia? I probably wouldn't go to none of his fights. You know, he said he don't need me. He got to stick to his words. And right after, this was December 19th. And now he back talking about Errol Spence. Like, it's weird to me. The behavior is weird. Like, you said you don't need him. You don't care if it happens. Then you came out and said you want to fight him or Pacquiao. And then Errol Spence said something else you didn't like. And you did this subliminal. You know, that chapter is now closed. So how we go from that chapter is now closed to you doing an interview with Dan Raphael, you know, chapter is now closed, to after that tweet saying, I can't speak for him. I guess they're working on something else. If it happens, it happens. I mean, this is crazy. Says you already know that's going to be a question anytime I'm interviewed or anytime he's interviewed. I don't take it as nothing. You get tired of the same old when you fighting Errol questions. I know he's tired of being asked when you're going to fight Terence. I don't care what other people ask him or what his reply is. So once again, he doesn't care, but he is still responding to it. Whatever. Says, this is interesting too. Make sure you guys note this. Regarding his relationship with Bob Arum, who said some things, like threw him under the bus basically, and said he loses money on Terence Crawford fights. He could have bought a fat house in Beverly Hills. When asked if there was any issues between him and Arum, Crawford says, not really, and that's in quotes. Bob hasn't said nothing to me direct. I saw him do a couple interviews, but that's Bob. He's entitled to say how he feels and say what he wants. I'm entitled to feel how I feel and say what I want. Difference between me and him, if I got a problem with someone, I'm going to take it up with that someone. It's a lot of things that are untrue, what's being said that I don't like, but I'm not going to elaborate on it. I'll let them save face. So when Gary Russell says he punched you and you say it's a sucker punch, you elaborate on it. You know, when Errol Spence says 60-40, 70-30, whatever, comments about you and the split, you elaborate on it. After saying you're done and the chapter's closed with Errol Spence, yada, yada, yada. But then when it comes to Bob Arum, the energy is immediately different. He says, not really any issues, not really. And that's just Bob being Bob, which is almost verbatim what Bomac said. So how is it that Bob could, in the business world, talk greasy and say, throw you under the bus, his own product? Gary Russell Jr., you know, an African-American fighter that you don't like and he don't like you, from the sounds of things, he don't owe nothing to you. Your promoter, I would imagine, owes it to you to help maintain the integrity of your brand. Errol Spence, a PBC fighter, doesn't owe anything to you. He's not your ally. To my knowledge, y'all not boys, y'all not previous friends, you didn't go to the same school, etc. So it's real weird that Team Crawford has all this energy for Ray Robinson rebuttals and Gary Russell. They could say this about Errol Spence, but then when a white male, a Jewish white male, I think from New York, and Bob Arum is getting at you and saying his piece, you say, oh, that's just Bob being Bob. Really weird from where I'm, you know, the position I'm in. He said it's a lot of things that are untrue, but Bob Arum said he could prove he's losing money. Lastly, Crawford said that never came out of my mouth regarding leaving Top Rank. He said that's the crazy part. There's a lot of things going around that are untrue. If you haven't heard me say it, then you know that's it. I never said anything about leaving Top Rank or signing with PBC or anything. I never said anything. I'll tell you, like I told everyone from jump, I'm with Top Rank right now. That's my promotional company. In the future, who knows what the future holds? When that time comes around, we can revisit this conversation about that. Until then, I'm signed with Top Rank. So, you know, I don't understand the game, to be honest, that Terence Crawford is playing. Now, back to the comments about he got some screws loose. I just think it's inappropriate. And if you guys remember the angry fans or whatever from Dallas when he was in the crowd, I made a video about it, went viral, and the crowd they were like, this EJ City. And they was yelling, they were like, you in Dallas, all that. One thing, if you remember my video that I said, is that Terence Crawford, like his team in general, they're turning it into something that boxing is supposed to be a gentleman's sport, right? And when you say stuff like, I just laughed, this guy, he's on a high horse, maybe the wreck knocked a couple screws loose, that's nothing to do with boxing. Like, as a boxing fan in a gentleman's sport, if at best people want to see Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, but when you talk about a man and his peril and his fight for life, that takes it to a different degree. Like, Terence Crawford just had a beautiful baby. Errol Spence never talks about his girl, his kids, his baby. You know, he never disrespect, to my knowledge, publicly. I haven't seen anytime Crawford's name comes up for Errol, he's not talking about things that are outside of the grasp of just boxing. If anything, it's like, I'll beat you, I'll whoop you, he can't beat me, I'm the best, you know, things like that. Boxing stuff. But Team Crawford, you know, I said it in that video with Dallas where the fans were like, this EJ City, and and there was all this like angst and animosity and vitriol in the crowd. Maybe this is part of the reason I told you. Like, when you start bringing up the wreck overly, like his whole team is doing it. Bernie's like, we not doing dumb stuff, DUIs and drunk driving and all this stupid, you know, that's cool. But let's not act imperfect, you know what I'm saying? Like, or perfect. You know, we're all imperfect. For example, Crawford, I'm sure, has his own personal demons. He got shot in the head shooting dice. They said he ran up in some auto mechanic and hoisted his car down and beat the owner up, whatever. But Errol Spence is never bringing these types of things. He's not bringing Crawford's kid. Oh, that's why your son lost his wrestling tournament, or this and that, or that's why you went into the auto body shop and blah, 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 got sued, or this why you, like, that's not boxing, bro. That's not boxing. You know, you're saying the accident, they keep, and it tells you it's almost like a microcosm of probably what's being discussed in Crawford's gym. And I mean, it's like you could be talking yourself out of the fight entirely by doing all that above and beyond. And the craziest thing is you're not in the position of power. So if you really want, and I'm not saying you have to be a punk or cower down in all facets of life, but he's saying Errol's on a high horse, but who is really on a high horse when you hear Crawford saying, oh, I'm chilling, life is good, I'm with family, you know, I'm making good money, boom, boom, boom. It sounds like almost complacency. Now, Crawford, the good thing that he has going for him is he doesn't fight complacent. But again, he's not also fighting the better names in the division that fans want to see him fight. So, yeah, you could look good. Like, you know, even Canelo, he looked great versus Callum Smith. But in my opinion, I told you before the fight, Caleb Plant and David Benavidez are great fights. And I thought they were better guys in that division. But, you know, Canelo did what he wanted to do and fought who I think Charlo is also stylistically a dangerous fight. But, well, you know, I'm not really understanding the angle. That's why I had to unpack this. Crawford is a terrific fighter. I will never not say that. But people are getting restless with the level of foe that you're getting. And it's just weird that all these other fighters, like when they say anything and step to you, you see the pit bull side of Crawford. But every single time Bob Arum is referenced, you play it cool. I'm like, oh, that's just Bob being Bob. Ha ha ha. And people are looking at you like, what? How you gonna let that man talk to you like that? You know, and realistically, Errol Spence, from what I've seen, he maintains to keep it about boxing. He said, I'm big dog, big fish, man down. You know, I done the better numbers, stuff like that. This is all boxing talk and boxing related. It is Crawford's team, and like I said in that Dallas video when they said this EJ City, it's the energy you put out in this world that could come back to you. Crawford's team, they keep playing this passive aggressive hot cold game and, you know, bringing up the accident. We all go through our trials and tribulations. To me, there's nothing gangster, nothing cool about talking about a man who almost lost his life constantly. Like, this is not Ja Rule versus 50 Cent, you know, where it's like, oh, that's why you got shot up 9 times, haha, you know, you just trying to go for the jugular. This is really boxing, the sweet science. I don't want to see either one of these fighters, you know, permanently damaged or hurt. I really mess with Crawford. I really mess with Errol Spence. That's why it bothered me as a boxing fan, you know, having talked to Errol and interviewed him and went and covered his fights. I literally have pictures of in my phone with Errol weeks before the fight. Sean Porter went to the Sean Porter fight, and then weeks later his car flipped. I just don't think that's nothing cool about that. But for Crawford to say that Errol is on a high horse, it's just it's a bit weird, because I'm going to talk about this more and more. You at his fight, he fighting Danny Garcia, and you going, and your entourage are going to the fight. He just said, I probably wouldn't go to your fight, you know? So he is the big fish. And at the very least, Canelo is entertaining an Errol Spence fight, saying, hey, we could probably do that at 160 if he wants to come up. You know, it'd be a big fight. Pacquiao, his team is publicly reaching out to media, doing interviews like you just did one, link in the description, with Raphael. And they're saying, yo, you know, what's good? Errol look good. Maybe we can get that cracking for 2021. So I just feel like Crawford, you know, we'll see what he decides. I can't, you know, he keeps saying I'm with Bob Arum now. So we'll see what he decides. I can't put the decision in his mind of what his next move is. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until we see what it is. But, you know, what he's saying, it sounds like he's the one with the ego, and he's, no pun intended, and he's the one on the high horse, because he's feeling that he's going to get something better than 60-40, 70-30. And the boy Errol got more belts and more options, point blank, period. You could say all that little games and like play these games with me. I'm not the one. You know, all the fans in the comment section, I know reality. The reality is, whether you want to see the fight or not, the business has to happen for the fight to happen. And you're not in the driver's seat in this conversation, buddy. It's just, that's what it is with Crawford. You could be as talented as you want. Like, that's like saying Ryan Garcia, let's say you don't feel, and then I'm just using him as an example, whether you feel there's a lightweight like Javier Fortuna, if you think Javier Fortuna is better than Ryan Garcia and you make your case, that's what it is. But that's not to say Javier Fortuna make more money or is more popular than Ryan Garcia or Teofimo or Devin Haney. You could think Javier Fortuna beats Devin Haney, beats Ryan Garcia, but I assure you they're making more money than him. So you have to understand the business. And we're only talking about the business because of the business that Crawford is refusing. In a perfect world, none of this stuff would matter, but that's not the world we live in, and I'm a realist. The bottom line is Errol Spence is top dog. I think he has trainer of the year as well with Derek James, 2 unified champions. Errol Spence is doing bigger numbers. You're not really in the position to commandeer the ship and really get anything over 60-40. Because guess what? I'm going to tell you how it'll happen. Errol Spence having the better options, he could rematch Sean Porter. He could fight Pacquiao. He could fight against Canelo. You know, these are all bankable opportunities. Sergey Lipinets and Mikey Garcia in San Antonio did 20,000 plus in attendance. Errol could fight at Frisco at the Star or AT&T Stadium or whatever against the Lipinets and bring the city out. You don't even come from a place as big as Texas. See, I'm from a big state, California, West Side. I'm from the big state. So I know about this big state, these big cities and big state. Bro, it takes me longer to get to LA from NorCal, where I live, you know, Bay Area, than people driving from Vegas. That's a big state. You could get from Vegas to LA quicker than me up north in the Bay Area driving to LA. So I know what it's like to be from a big state. Errol's from a big state. Terence Crawford, Omaha, just look at the population. It's not nowhere near California or Texas. Now, Errol's not from Cali, but he is from Texas. So, you know, that's my thoughts. We unpacked. I just feel like a lot of this comments about like the wreck and stuff, it's just like, what's the point? Like, what, you know, Wilder said he want to catch a body and people were shook up. Then Golovkin say he don't mind offing De La Hoya and nobody say nothing. You know, when Broner say something out of pocket or I took your belt and I took your girl, everybody mad. But then Crawford keep bringing up, and his team keep bringing up Errol being an alcoholic and DUIs and a wreck that really almost claimed his life. I just don't see what like, bro, look at the man's car. What's funny about this? Like, real talk. And then now you go to his city and you wonder why people run up on the team. And I'm not condoning any type of foolishness, because who knows, the fighter might, you know, beat your ass, but you can't beat a whole city. You know what I'm saying? The man, look at his car. Like, what part of the game is this? You know, if you want to fight Errol, you want to fight him. That's cool. I get that. But, you know, I don't, there's certain things, I'm just different, bro. I don't poke fun at certain things. Like, you never see me like really joke about people who have passed and stuff. That's not really my lane. So let's keep it boxing and keep it a gentleman's sport. If Crawford wants to fight, that's cool. That's his own situation. But, you know, the way he's going about it, I don't know if that's going to happen. Also, sign up for ESPN Plus using my link. That helps the channel grow in a phenomenal way. Y'all don't know. Click on that link, ESPN Plus. It's $5.99 a month. Or you could get the bundle, ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus. Disney Plus just announced a monster schedule. Let me take this picture off. A monster schedule with a ton of new content. Loki, Mandalorian's back, etc. Get that ESPN Plus, Hulu, Disney Plus bundle for $12.99 a month. I personally have all three, and you know, you guys should enjoy it by clicking my link. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know if you understand the points I've made in this video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.